Hi, I'm Juanita Molina with Humane Borders in Tucson, Arizona. Our primary purpose is to take death out of the immigration equation. Operation Gatekeeper started in the mid-90s. It was a much more militarized structure of working from the urban areas. So taking the more populated areas, shutting them down to migration, and then pushing people further into wilderness areas and slowly securing the border through that process. You know, they really genuinely thought that a few people would die in the desert and that would be an acceptable loss. And then that word would get back to their cities and towns saying, don't cross, it's too dangerous. The U.S. government talked about creating a natural barrier to migration. And what ended up happening is, first place, they didn't know who they were dealing with. Again, you know, invisible populations that they really had no idea, you know, what people would know about or not know about crossing. So after 9/11, there's never been a summer here that has had less than 100 recovered human remains. And those are the ones that we find. We're not even actively looking for these people in the desert. I've been working with Humane Borders as their executive director for the last 5 years, and it's been an amazing experience, and I feel very honored to have this kind of a position within the organization. Humane Borders is a humanitarian aid organization, so essentially we are a community response to the deaths that have occurred here on the U.S.-Mexico border. Essentially what we do is that we map where people die, how they die, and as much information about the circumstances, and then we review those deaths and we do everything in our power to help. One of the primary ways that people die is dehydration, and so that's why we have deployed a series of water stations all throughout southern Arizona and also in Mexico, Nogales and Sassabee.
It does that a lot. Just like a snake. I don't believe that people should be dying under misery out here just because of politics from Washington, D.C.
Right now we're over here by Coleman Road. It's one of the areas where deaths have occurred in the past. Through our death mapping, we're able to identify some of the areas of high traffic. And so this is where we've deployed one of our water stations. And we come back on a weekly basis to refill it and make sure that the flag is also visible. One of the reasons why we use the color blue is it's one that does not occur in the natural scheme of the desert. So this is why we have this water station here. Our water trucks are equipped with 200 to 300 gallons of water. As you can see from this barrel, we include a sticker of the Virgen de Guadalupe so that people know that it's a friendly place to come. It's a place where the water will be safe. It has been a really interesting process with Border Patrol, really a community-based listening process and trying to help shift and find common ground wherever possible. I think they've come to understand more about the ways that we're trying to prevent deaths in the desert. And we've worked with them on prevention campaigns and educating the communities that are coming over. We know that what we're doing is completely lawful. Although there are members of the community who do not see it that way. They see it as aiding and abetting. They do not see the impact on the economic migrants that are coming through. They feel that the assistance is aiding criminal organizations, which is very far from the truth. Criminal organizations, especially if they're transporting drugs or people or anything along those lines, they're very well prepared. They know this terrain. They know what they're going to need. The reality is that there are many people who are crossing here who have absolutely no idea of how far they'll be walking or what the trails are, or what the desert is going to look like. And that's where we see a lot of people die. Even the most minor injury in this terrain, in this place, can become fatal. You twist an ankle, you bump into some cactus. My position as Executive Director of Humane Borders, I spend time coordinating the runs, the volunteers, and also just the information and public policy information related to migrant deaths.
We work as a team. Basically, the desert's mine. I go in the desert, I know the land, I can follow tracks, I can spot people. The desert belongs to me. She gets the urban environment. She gets to answer the phone. She gets to deal with the email. She gets to go talk to the Border Patrol. So it's a very good combination there. I'm much happier being in the desert than in the city.
I first started hearing about migrant deaths when I was in San Francisco. I kind of had a vague idea of it, but it's so surreal, really, what's happening here in the desert. And at that time, I was working in an immigration clinic in San Francisco, where we were predominantly serving undocumented people. And I started to see more and more people come through the clinic who were having different forms of systemic failures. And I started to hear these strange stories about the desert. And my parents lived out here in Tucson, and so I came out to actually physically see the terrain and see what they were describing, and it was absolutely surreal. It particularly touched my heart because my family immigrated here from Chile. We see so many families that are separated today because of immigration and because of immigration law, and seeing families that are taking these extreme risks, these huge risks coming across just for the hope of either being able to give each other a better life or being able to reunite with their families. And I feel like we as a community, as a society, have completely dehumanized the people that have come across. And what we're hoping to do is to inform people, enlighten people, let people know how severe the crisis is over here, and also just to restore the humanity of those who have passed.